practice a special pose to help us learn how to internally rotate at the very tops of the thighs. And this is important in setting up the pelvis as a pelvis that will allow a spine to be erect. So wrap the strap around the sacrum as you see here, and then pull the straps from between the legs, and then grab onto the straps with your palms facing forward, long spine, active legs, and pull the straps right to the right, left to the left, so at the very roots of your thighs, the thighs are internally rotating. Lift the low belly, lift the rib cage, engage the legs, and keep pulling with the hands to internally rotate at the roots of the legs. Let the pubic bone release down and lengthen the anterior spine. Now we'll do a variation of Urdhva Hastasana with 2 blocks and a strap. So place 1 block between your feet and place 1 block between your upper inner thighs, and then hold on to the strap with your hands at shoulders distance apart and lift the strap up and overhead. Let the thighs internally rotate and the outer thighs squeeze the block. So the outer thighs squeeze the inner thighs, which squeeze the block, and then lift the low belly up off the pelvis, and lift the rib cage up off the abdomen, lift the back ribs up off of the lower back, stretch the arms up to the ceiling, put tension on the strap, extend the arms and legs fully, make lots of space and length in your body here, and let the abdomen settle back towards the anterior surface, the front surface of the lumbar spine. So let the front waist move to the back waist. As your arms move back, let the waist move back. Stand right over your arches and lengthen and breathe here. Full extension in the arms and the legs. Create an ascension of the spine from bottom to top, deep inside yourself. Deep breath here, and then lower your arms down. Now we'll get ready for a deep low lunge with the back knee down. So place a blanket on your sticky mat as you see here, and that will be the padding for the knee that will drop down. And then stand at the front of your sticky mat with a block on either side of each foot. Stand tall in mountain pose. Stand tall in mountain pose with energized legs. And then bring your hands down to the blocks and step your left foot back. Gather the outer right hip back and in. Lift the back thigh up. Lengthen the spine from bottom to top. Long trunk here, long abdomen. And let your hips sink down to be the height of the front knee. And then let your hips sink even further down as you reach the left thigh further back, and then place the left knee down on the blanket, and then untuck your back toes. So the front of the shin and the front of the foot and the back leg is resting down on the blanket and the sticky mat, and sink your hips forward and down. So the whole sacrum is relaxing and releasing forwards, and then lift your low belly so that you lift your trunk up and out of the pelvis. Bending deeply in the front knee, pull the outer right hip back. Pull the right femur back towards the hip socket. Pull the outer right hip back and also towards the midline. Gather your hips towards each other. Lift the low belly. Kick the back shin into the sticky mat. And then tuck your back toes under, lift your back thigh, and step your back foot forward. Then now step your right foot back, first coming into a simple lunge. Gather the left femur back towards the hip socket. Lift the back thigh. Let your hips come down to be the same height as the front knee. Gather your hips together and lengthen your spine. And then walk your right leg even further back. Extend that right thigh further back. Sink your hips down and then lower the back knee down onto the blanket. And rest the top of your back foot down onto the sticky mat. Kick the right shin down into the ground as you take your hips forward, letting the whole sacrum move forward. The tailbone moves into the body, and then lift your low belly and gather your outer left hip from the outer knee to the hip socket. So the outer left hip gathers back and in towards the midline. Squeeze your outer hips together, lift the deep low belly again, and lengthen through the anterior spine, kicking the right shin down. Bending deeply in the front knee. Smooth breathing here. And then tuck your back toes and lift your back thigh. And step your back foot forward. Bend your knees, relax and release your head down, and then take your hands to hips and stretch your chest forward to come on up. Now we'll practice side angle pose. Start in Tadasana with feet together. And then bring your hands onto your hips and step your feet wide. Have your toes pointing in so the heels are a little wider than toes. Long spine, shoulders back. And then turn the right leg all the way out and the left toes in a little more. Shoulders to the back of the shoulder sockets, long in the waist, and then bend the right knee deeply. Rest the right forearm onto the right thigh and get long from the left heel all the way through the top of the head. So the trunk is on a diagonal here, lengthening in line with the back leg, which is straight and extended. And then lift the left arm to the ceiling to help you open the left ribs. Think of lifting the belly to the ceiling. And think of grounding that right sitting bone forward towards the right groin, so the buttocks is not reaching back behind you. And then take the top arm all the way up and across, gazing at the top hand, and find a nice long line of energy from back heel all the way up through the top hand. And then inhale and lift yourself out of the pose, straightening the legs, hands to hips and change sides, turning the left leg all the way out, turn the right toes even more in, shoulders back, long spine, bend the left knee deeply, rest the left forearm onto the left thigh, and open the right shoulder so that the front of your trunk is pointing straight forward. Long line from the back heel, extended in the back leg, and all the way through the spine, through the top of the head. And then lift the right arm up, lift the belly to the ceiling, open the right ribs, drop the left butt cheek down and under you, and ground the center of that left butt cheek forward towards the groin. Strong in the back leg. Ground the right thigh back in space as you extend the knee, and then take that top arm all the way across so that it continues that diagonal line, gazing at the top palm. Strong in the back leg, very bent in the front knee, lifted in the low belly, and turn the right ribs open towards the ceiling. Gather the left butt cheek more underneath you. And then inhale and come all the way up to straight legs, arms extending to the sides, hands to hips, feet parallel. Recover with an open chest And then step your feet together, hands on hips, and step your feet wide, heels wider than toes. Ground down through the inner feet and draw up the musculature of the legs from the ankles to the knees to the hips, and then lift the low belly, lift the waist, stretch the arms out to the sides, widen the collarbones. Take the heads of the humerus bones back in space. In other words, take your shoulders back towards the back of the shoulder sockets. Spread wide through the arms. Extend your elbows and your knees fully. Take your thigh bones back. Take your inner thighs back. Lift the back ribs. Lift the side ribs and the front ribs. And let the upper buttocks relax down. Breathing here. And then take your hands to your hips and step your feet together. And now we'll practice Ardha Prasarita Padottanasana, and we'll do this with bent knees. So start in Tadasana and have your blocks ready. Take your hands to your hips with an open chest, lifted spine, and walk your feet out wide, heels wider than toes, legs energized and long, thigh bones back, lifted belly. Stretch your arms out to the sides. Active in the limbs here. Internally rotate the thighs and lift from underneath the heart. Ground through the inner feet and the outer feet. And then take your hands back to your hips, keeping the shoulders reaching back. And now start to bend your knees and fold at the hips. Bring your hands down to the blocks and don't round your back or tuck your pelvis here, but rather deepen the bend of the knees and lift the buttocks way up. Stretch the front ribs forward and let the thoracic spine deepen into the chest. So keep the knees bent here, which will allow you to find a true lift of the buttocks. Stretch the chest forward, extend through the arms. Elongate the anterior spine. Stay grounded in the inner feet. And then start to deeply fold down. You can keep your hands resting on blocks and move the blocks closer to your feet. Or if your hands reach the floor, you can rest your weight into your hands a little bit. Staying with knees bent. Lift the buttocks, roll the thighs in. Release and relax the head down. Release and relax the back ribs, side ribs, and front ribs down. Deep breath here. And then hands to hips, bend the knees deeper, stretch the chest forward, shoulders back, and come all the way up, thigh bones back. Lifting the spine, and step your feet together. Now we'll practice what I call the Prasarita dog. So have your blocks ready in front of you, and then step your feet wide so that your heels are wider than your toes. Thighs rolling in, muscles of the legs engaged and lifting up, thighs pressing back. Lift the low belly, lift the side ribs, shoulders back, lift from under the heart, and then exhale and fold yourself forward, taking the hands to the blocks. Keep your legs very active and very tall. Keep lifting the backs of the legs as you slide your blocks forward, taking your upper body into a down dog position. Pull the outer hips up and back. Pull the inner thighs back. Stretch your hands and arms forwards as you let your head release down between the arms. Think of the thoracic spine deepening towards the chest. Abdomen is long, and the front of the spine, the anterior spine, is very elongated here. Stay lifted in the fronts and backs of the legs evenly. Stay grounded in the inner feet. Press your hands into the blocks and release the top of the head down. Stay open and relaxed and lifted in the back of the throat. Let the abdomen recede and lengthen. Breathing here. And then walk your hands back so the blocks are right under the shoulders, and then walk your feet a little closer. Bend your knees, hands to hips, shoulders back, and lift the chest to come on up. And then step your feet together. Now we'll practice an active version of Setu Bandhasana. So lay down on your back with your knees bent and feet flat, and bring your feet quite close to your sitting bones and a little bit wider than your sitting bones. And then you're going to tuck the pelvis under and lift the tailbone up and interlace your fingers underneath your buttocks and walk your shoulders closer together underneath you. Stretch through the arms and press the forearms and elbows down as you lift the buttocks higher. You can even lift up the heels to lift the buttocks higher. Reach the shoulder blades into the rib cage, which will help you open the chest towards the chin. And lift the buttocks more. Ground the heels now and think of the right and left sides of the tailbone lifting. Magnetize the knees towards each other, and then lift up a little higher and release the interlace of the fingers, and then roll your spine back down, letting the tail come down last. Now we'll practice Upavishta Konasana and have 2 blocks and 2 blankets with you here. Stack up your folded blankets as you see here, so you will be sitting on the corner of the blankets, and have 1 block in front of you and 1 block behind you, like you see here. And then sit on the corner of the blankets and stretch your legs out to the sides. And now use your hands on the blankets to lift yourself up and get your buttocks more behind you. So this is important. Pull the flesh of the buttocks back, so that you feel like you're sitting more on the front half of the sitting bones. So you don't want your pelvis tucked under you at all. So the buttocks is pulled back. And then hands on the blankets, fingertips pressed down, shoulders back, lengthen the trunk, lengthen the rib cage, lengthen the spine. Lift the spine from bottom to top and balance your head right over your pelvic floor, and start to straighten the legs, extending the legs even more, grounding the thighs down. So the inner thighs are descending, the feet are active. And now start to twist to the left, taking the right hand onto the block in front of you and the left hand onto the block behind you, keeping the legs firm, the inner thighs grounded, the tops of your thigh bones grounded, the low belly lifting. Twist the belly, the rib cage, the shoulders. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to deepen the twist. Press down into the front half of the sitting bones. Twisting all the way to the other side. Left hand on the block in front of you, right hand on the block behind you, and turning. Grounded in the tops of the thighs, lifted in the low belly. Turn the belly to the right, turn the rib cage to the right. Turn the right ribs back, left ribs forward. And then release and come back to center. Once again, press your fingertips down to lift the trunk again, staying grounded in the legs. Breathing here. And then bend your knees to come out of the pose. Now we'll do a version of Virasana, seated pose. Open up your blanket onto your mat like you see here. And place your block onto the blanket and then come onto your shins with that block between the feet. Rest the top of your head onto the sticky mat and use your hands to pull the calf muscles down towards the Achilles tendons and out to the sides so that your thigh bones can sit down between the shins and the calves went lateral so there's room for the thighs to sit down. And then pull the skin of the shins forward and pull the flesh of the buttocks back so that you can really sit on the center of the sitting bones. Make your adjustments here. Make sure that your feet and toes are pointing straight back. Rest your hands on your thighs. Feel the natural curves of your spine here. The head balanced right over the pelvic floor. Breathe up and down your spine here. Create a little lift from the low belly. And then interlace your fingers and press your palms forward. And lift the hands up to the ceiling. Take the arms back and keep the waist pulling back as the arms go back. So you want to avoid the belly swinging forward as the arms go back. The belly should recede back. The elbows pull in towards each other. The hands press up. The lower belly lifts. The thighs are grounding down. And then exhale and lower your arms down and switch the interlace of the fingers. Press your palms forward and pull the abdomen back and lengthen the abdomen as you lift the arms back and lift the palms to the ceiling. Long in the waist. Let the arms be an extension of your waist. Press the shoulder blades forward into the rib cage, but let the abdomen settle back and lengthen. The roots of the thighs are grounded. Breathing here, getting grounded through the sitting bones as you inhale, and soften and open the soft palate, the back of the throat as you exhale. And then lower your arms down and rest your hands on your thighs. Now we'll practice happy baby pose. So start laying down on your back, knees bent and feet flat, pelvis and spine neutral, long spine, breathing here. And then bring your knees into your chest and have your knees wide. And then kick your heels up towards the ceiling and grab onto the outer edges of your feet with your hands. Kick your heels away from the sitting bones to keep the backs of the knees open and let those thighs hug your outer rib cage. And breathe and relax here, and you can do some playful movements like pulling your right knee down towards the armpit and then pulling the left knee down towards the armpit. Let the lower back release and relax. Press the inner feet up towards the ceiling. Stay long in your spine here. Let the abdomen recede and lengthen, so no hardening or pushing in the belly at all. Bring your knees back towards your chest, grabbing onto the knees. Bring your legs back down, feet coming to the mat. And then start to elongate and stretch the legs and reach your arms overhead. Just creating some length here. Rolling the thighs in, stretching the inner feet forward. Lengthening the belly. Deep breath. And then release. Now we'll practice a lovely, simple version of Supta Baddha Konasana without any props. So lay down on your back and adjust the flesh of your buttocks so it moves away from the lower back. And then bring the soles of the feet together and the knees open. And we'll do this with no support, so that gravity is your prop here. Gravity is what's helping you and informing you in this pose. See if you can just surrender your legs to gravity. And let your shoulder blades slide down your back, and then stretch your arms out in a Shavasana position so that you can relax here. Let your trunk and spine be long. See if you can breathe here with your whole body. Relaxing the pelvis and the buttocks, relaxing the groins. Feel where your body is making contact with the floor. Contact with the sticky mat. And then start to lift your knees up. You can use your hands to help you if that feels right. Feet flat. And then roll over to your side to come on up. And now come to the floor for a posture that I call neutral. It's a supported neutral position. So make a loop in your strap and step your feet into that loop, and then place a block between the feet. And then you'll begin to tighten the strap, but leave enough space so that you can now place the other block between your knees, and then tighten the strap around the centers of your thighs so that your legs are very supported here in a neutral parallel position, thighs strapped together, block between the knees, block between the feet. So you're very parallel in your legs, and then lay down, release the flesh of the buttocks away from the low back, and reach your arms overhead along the floor, and start to breathe length up and down your trunk. Let the abdomen relax and settle and lengthen. See if you can create length in your belly as you relax the pelvis down. Let your femurs relax and settle. The femurs are the thigh bones. So let the thigh bones relax here as you're all strapped in and supported. And then change the position of the arms into more of a relaxation position. So arms more by your sides, palms facing the ceiling, shoulder blades settled down your back. Relax here as you breathe length into your spine. Smooth, steady breath. And just feel your pelvis here in neutral. So not tucked and not arched, but there's a neutrality to the pelvis, the legs, and the spine here. And see if this neutrality can support an open breath. And so the bottom ribs open just as much as the middle and top ribs as you inhale. And exhale. And then inhale again here. And a smooth exhalation. Continue to bring your attention inside. And then bring your knees towards your chest. Remove the block. Take your legs out of the strap loop. And come out of the pose. Now we'll practice a version of corpse pose called dead man pose. So make a loop in your strap and step your feet through the loop. And then tighten up the strap so that your knees are strapped together fairly snugly. And then start to lay down on your back and set up the flesh of your buttocks so that it's pulling away from the lower back, so the buttocks is releasing towards the feet side. And now make your feet quite wide, so the feet are as wide as your sticky mat, and point your toes in slightly so you're a little bit pigeon-toed. And then slide your shoulder blades down your back and take a nice deep breath in to lengthen your spine and let your arms and hands relax. And just let the femur bones relax here. So the femurs are relaxing into the hip sockets. Smooth, steady breath here. And now start to draw your knees in towards your chest so that you can reach for the strap. Loosen it up a little bit and then take the strap off your legs. And roll on to your side and come on up.